Practice is happening, man. Football is totally back. I know everyone is all caught up in the scuttlebutt of the Louisville basketball coaching search, but we are not going to let that stop us from diving into football. Exciting show on hand here as spring football is officially underway, fellas. It's exciting to be here talking about live football. Vince, Matt, how we doing?
Doing fantastic. It was nice to get a break from the enthralling coaching search. Let me tell you, like it was walking into the Traeger Center and being able to like see actual live football
Coach
drills.
and like a
A,
firmly
a head
supplanted
coach,
coach.
yeah,
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 right.
exactly.
Like we don't
It
have to
was
work. It's
Actual
crazy.
practice schedule.
Yeah.
Just so many things that go
Vince,
along.
how are you, man? It's good to see you.
Good, man. Can't complain. Just, making pastas and, eating Italian food.
It
Doing the
looks
normal.
like you have a football necklace on, but it's the football from Isaac's shirt, from Isaac spiking it with the cross. It looks like it's
does.
a football chain. Well, that's exciting, and it's great that we're all three here. But what's really exciting is that and we've been kind of hinting at this the last couple of weeks on the show, but the team is growing as the content is growing and as we have more opportunity to produce in it. As you've noticed, video has become a little bit more focus here. We in the past have really, kind of stuck to audio through our first 3 years of the show. And that has been possible by our good friend that you may know by listener Keith, right? This is the journey, the full listener journey here, right? So Presley made the joke about a year ago that I know all of our listeners, and that's probably because there was like five. So it wasn't as if there was a lot to know. But Keith and I have gotten to know each other over the last, 6 months or so, just through the power of the internet and exchanging DMs. And Keith supplied our tickets for the Duke game earlier this year for the giveaway that we did. And then Presley and Keith met out at one of the games. And so, anyways, all of that eventually evolved into Keith joining the show in a kind of behind the scenes role with the video. And then the live show opportunity came a part of that. And Keith and I just started talking about, like, man, that would be a great role for you to be more involved. Like, you're an expert in the big man, like offensive lineman. Like, this could really be a great kind of evolution of the show. And then really this kind of opened up the door to Keith joining State of Louisville. So, Keith, I am extremely excited to now upgrade you. You've graduated from listener Keith to producer Keith. And we are just extremely ecstatic to have you here tonight. So, welcome into the show. Round of applause, fellas, for Keith. How are you, buddy?
Doing well. Thank you all for letting me out of the editing hole long enough to actually hop on the podcast, prove I really exist. And no, I'm thrilled to be on. It's been quite the journey with some twists and turns, but excited for where we are now and looking forward to doing more with y'all.
Exactly, man. And we've got a great show tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about spring football. Matt was out there at the practice earlier this week. So we're going to talk through just like some live football and like what it was like. I have got some opinions on what I've been hearing from the coaches. I think they've said some things very loudly that I was not expecting to hear this early into spring football. I want to talk about that. And then I want to get to know Keith a little bit more before we welcome in Bryan Hudson, who needs no introduction. He is the toughest SOB that has played at Louisville in my lifetime. Like, I can think of a lot of warrior Louisville football players. I say that and I can't name any off the top of my head, but if I thought about it for a few minutes, I could name a ton of guys that we just are like Iron Men, like Bryan
Teddy
throughout
Bridgewater.
yes, exactly. Right. Thank you. Great example of that. And there's been a lot of offensive linemen too. I mean, they've had some guys like that have really been able to play, not have injuries. But anyways, Bryan this past year was a major focal point, and he was under Scott Satterfield as well, playing a multitude of positions on the offensive line. He transferred in. He's a Kentucky guy, but didn't go to the blue school, which is just always an interesting narrative when you're talking about recruiting. No, Matt's take on this state is not fertile for football talent at the scale of others, but Bryan is a great example of the talent that is here in the state, and his role for Louisville was extremely important this past year. And I'm excited to interview him and for this interview to be shared with our audience because I know I say this a lot, and Keith, maybe you've heard me say this enough. I'd be curious on your take on this, but like he is a great example of what I think Louisville football is, like the lunch pail effort, like hard hat, blue collar, show up every day and just do your job. Like, Vince is our example of that, right? But Bryan is like Vince on steroids,
Yeah.
right? Like, is that hyperbole?
Hey, Brian's awesome, man. I mean, Keith, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're right where I was. The kid's absolutely incredible. Like between him and Ashton, really, we've really been lucky as a fan base to just have a couple of poster children to really hold up as, hey, when you think Louisville football, we want you to think of these guys right here. They're not going to do anything too crazy flashy. They're just going to put their head down, go to work, and they're going to kick a lot of ass doing it.
Man, like you'll hear it in the episode. He is just I had chills the whole time hearing him just speak about playing for the name across the chest. I mean, he's truly one of those players that, if I had a small child, I would be like, this is who I want you to play ball like right here. This is who I want you to be like as a person, emulate Bryan Hudson. He's one of those kind of people.
And I can really appreciate Keith's story about Brian when Brian was just a little middle schooler,
awesome.
early high schooler.
I mean,
Eighth
that's
grader
awesome.
or going into freshman. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it was a wild thing, and I touched on it in the interview, so I'll leave it for then. But yeah, the surprise I saw when he was transferring in, and it's like, oh, that little kid grew up to be a 45-year-old police veteran who's done 20 years on the force. Puberty hit the kid like a 2-ton pickup.
Yeah, man, Oscar award-winning actor as well. How about that? I mean, geez, man, the skills are limitless when it comes to Bryan Hudson. But before we get into that in spring football, Keith, we want to get to know you a little bit. We want to round you out as a Louisville football fan. We know that you are, so I've got a couple of questions here, and I'm just, kind of rapid fire like we will with Bryan in the episode. Just want to see where you're coming from, see if we can kind of feel out the vibe a little bit that you'll bring to the show. So let me start with this one here. Who is your favorite U of L football player of all time?
That's a tricky one. I'll go Elvis Doomerville.
Okay, I like the defense. Like that sets a tone, man, of the kind of the vibes here.
Easy
Okay.
cop had Samar. And
Right. But everybody has like that favorite player. And then I guess I'll just go ahead and skip to this one then, since I'm going to kind of allude to it. But you go from the favorite player. Who's your most like underrated player? I love him, but I don't know why.
So that's a tricky one, trying to go back. Well, underrated player, even though he was elite while he was here, was Eric Wood, but I know exactly why there. We'll go with Cole Hicatini. Was a big fan of him while he was here, doing a lot of little things while still able to make big plays when the opportunity came.
Who's your favorite coach of all time?
If you asked me this when I was in high school, Bobby 1.0, because he actually entertained me when I was like, I came out of Owen County, not Oldham, Owen, so very rural Kentucky, like no sort of recruiting profile whatsoever, and actually like entertained me on a visit, like just going through, just trying to get a walk-on out of it. He left before I was able to finish school. Cragthorpe came in. I'll leave it at that. But favorite coach? The one who's here right now, Jeff Brom.
I like it, man. So let me just step away from this real quick and ask you, what's your football experience, right? We've kind of detailed all of that. What is your football experience? You alluded to it a little bit right there.
Okay, yeah. So I started playing ball about as early as I can remember, 3rd, 4th grade. Always was a bigger guy, so was always
Husky
lineman duty.
Right? It's a term we use. I'm right there with you. Yeah.
So O-line, D-line in rural Kentucky. So I was playing both ways, O-line, D-line, kicker and punter for a couple years late in high school.
Oh, wow.
And also track and field. So I ended up going to Georgetown College, doing track and field there, playing football for the first couple of years. You'll learn in the interview, I wasn't built like Bryan, so I only did football for 2 years at Georgetown because I was better at track than I was football. So that's where my playing career ended, but been a Louisville fan for as long as I can remember and been following the team just as long.
So you crawled so Bryan Hudson could walk is what I'm hearing. Is that what I'm hearing right here, man?
You know what? I will take all the credit you're willing to give me.
That's great, man. All right, last one here. What is your hottest U of L football take?
Hottest U of L football take.
He wants the basketball program to suffer so that Louisville becomes a football school.
I mean, that is a pretty hot take that I have, but
Right there with you on that one, Keith.
I mean, I wish that we had fallen into the Big 12 rather than the ACC, just because, like, growing up Owenton's not quite northern Kentucky, but close enough. The games that I really like latched on to were like the Thursday night games against West Virginia and the Noel Devine and Pat White
Yeah,
days.
man. Yeah.
And playing against Cincinnati with Zach Caleros, Munchie Lego. So the games against
Ooh.
those teams, like, so being in the Big 12 and being able to reunite and play with those teams again would make my heart so happy. So I guess that'll be my hottest
I like
Louisville
it.
football
It's
take.
way different than what you said before we started recording. That if Crackthorpe had one more year, that Louisville would, be on a better trajectory than they now.
Yeah,
You weren't
that's what you
supposed
said.
to tell anyone that.
Louisville
You
would
know
be
what?
back by now.
You know what? I'm editing. I can cut that out if I
Yeah.
want.
The power has changed here, the dynamics. All right, well, let's jump into spring football. Great to get to know Keith here. He will become much more of a mainstay on the show. And what you'll kind of see throughout the show, or I guess as we kind of start to plug things and breaks, whatever, is that the live show is coming to fruition a week from, what are we at today? Wednesday, a week from tomorrow.
Wednesday the 20th.
A week from tomorrow. So we will be getting going right at the end of March as spring practice gets going. We've got, 3 or 4 more open practices. So there's a lot of things to get into. Recruiting, 4 more open practices. Recruiting is starting to pick up. Just a lot of things to talk about that we just don't have the time to do here once a week. So be sure that you're tuned in to our social channels at Pink Seats Pod, at the State of Lou, at U of L Report, at Matt_McGavick, at Vincent Lococo, at Toff Shelf, TOFF Shelf 55, all of that. Look at that. This is what a host does here, is plug all of the social channels. But honestly, a lot of great content coming. And so tonight, what I want to do is use this as our spring football primer. And so, Matt, you have been preparing for this. You've now been at Jeff Brom's media availability after practice 1. You were there today for Ron English. So let's do a version of Matt's stats here. That's really just more like Matt's facts. And what are 3 things, Matt, that we need to know about spring practice? Just any direction you want to take this, brother. This is up to you. 3 things to know about spring practice for Louisville football.
So obviously take everything I'm about to say with a little bit of a grain of salt, only because we are literally just 1 practice in. So there's
taking it all back.
Yeah, exactly. So there's bound to be an overreaction or 2, but something that I picked up on pretty early in the practice is that, and not to call last season's team unathletic, because clearly there were dudes, but it seems like, based on what I've seen so far, that this current roster has a lot more overall athleticism. They look faster, they look longer, taller, they look beefier, certainly at certain positions. Like this looks like they have the look of a top shelf Power 5 football team. That was one of the very first things I picked up on. And this kind of ties into the positions to watch thing that I'm going to get into in a little bit, but there's going to be probably a lot more competition than what we saw last year. Now, obviously, there were new coaching staff, so there's going to be a lot of competition there, period. But I mean, when you've got a roster that's I didn't realize until I did the math today, it's going to be almost nearly a 50-50 split with newcomers and returners. I mean, by definition, there's going to be a lot of competition. I mean, you've got a really too deep on the offensive line and defensive line in particular. There are a couple other positions where, like, you've got some established guys, but then, like, the guys behind them, who's going to win it out behind them. And one of the first ones that came to mind as like a quote unquote position to watch and see how the competition works out there is tight end. Just because, that's a position that, I mean, all of us can probably agree that was probably the weakest link, not only on the offense, but probably the entire team. It is what it is.
You expect a guy like Jamar Johnson to take a step during this time period.
Oh, absolutely. Because when I was watching that first practice, something else that I picked up on early was that they were getting the tight ends involved early and often. And it wasn't just one guy. We saw Jaleel Skinner, the Miami transfer, get in on a lot of plays. Jamari Johnson got in for a lot of plays. Nate Kuriski made a couple solid catches in like one-on-ones and 7-on-7s. I saw Isaiah Cummings make a few plays. And this is all before Mark Redmond, the San Diego State transfer, comes in. He'll be coming in over the summer because he's still finishing his final semester with the Aztecs. So that's a position that I'm gonna be very curious to see how that pans out in the spring and how when Redmond gets in the fold, because I think when everything is said and done, Redmond, while he's not gonna have a spring under his belt, I think he's probably gonna have the inside track to tight end one because I think he's got a little bit of a larger overall body of work. But I mean, Skinner, from what I saw,
Is he number 84?
Skinner is 88, if I remember
Who is
correctly.
number 84? Because he is this year's Chris Bell, man. I saw a picture of 84. I'm trying to pull the roster up in front of me right now, but 84 is built like a bus. Like, I mean, just a sculpture of just pure football, like, greatness. I don't know who it is.
While we wait for that, to Matt's point, like it's weird to hear Jeff, like I saw it in the video that Louisville, the football team posted, hear him say, there's a lot of new faces around here. You know, that's not really a phrase that you hear a lot in spring ball, fall camp and stuff. You know, you might hear a coach use the phrase of like, you know, there's a couple new faces, you got a few new guys around here. So I mean, that's wild. And that you say a 50-50 split, man, that's just the new age of
Yeah,
college.
it's close. Yeah, and 84 is Isaiah Cummings. Yeah, he did make like quite a few plays, honestly. I mean, you see his overall stats, career stats in last season at Kentucky, you're thinking, is he really going to be a significant contributor? But I mean, like, he made plays in that first practice.
If he can give you a Joey Gatewood type of stat line next season, and in addition to what you are going to get from Kuriski and Jaleel Skinner and Mark Redmond, I mean, you're talking about, mixed with the wide receivers, you're talking about Tyler Shough having a ton of weapons overall. Speaking of Tyler Shough, make that number 2 thing to know. Let's talk about Tyler Shough, man, because that's obviously like last year with Jack Plummer. It's like we got to get out there. We got to see it for ourselves. What are your first impressions of Tyler Shough? Is he the real deal, Matt?
Before you get into that, I thought he wasn't doing spring ball.
See, that's what I thought, because when we last talked to Jeff Brom, which I believe was either early or mid-February, somewhere in that time, he was talking about Shough like he was going to miss like most of spring ball, if not all of spring ball, which, you know, a little concerning because it's going to be your QB1, and obviously quarterback is the most important position in all of sports. So, you know, it's not exactly the greatest thing to hear. So I was a little bit surprised, not only when I saw Shough not in like a yellow or orange non-con jersey, like he was actively participating in practice, like he wasn't playing with any limitations. He wasn't shying away from contact. Now, granted, it was the first practice. They're sure not going to hit a lot. But, I mean, he was playing and moving around like he hadn't gotten hurt in the first place. So, number one, that's obviously a very great development without question. And just watching him play, yeah, he looks like the real deal. I mean, one of the things that the big complaints with Jack Plummer, for all the good that he did, I mean, he didn't really have quote unquote playmaking ability. He wasn't going to be the reason you win games or the reason you lose games. Well, I mean, he did lose games, but that's besides the point. Anyways, Shough very clearly has that quote unquote playmaking ability. He's got a very effortless, snappy throwing motion. He gets that ball out quick. And it's a very accurate throw on top of that too. And when it comes to his abilities as a runner, whether that's navigating the pocket, trying to use his legs to extend the play, or use his legs to actually make a play, I mean, he moves pretty fluidly. I mean, even for a big guy who's, I think, what, 6'4", 220, 230, something like that. I mean, he moves very well for a guy of his size and stature. So, I mean, again, like I said, first practice, so there's going to be an overreaction or two. But
what about the other kids too, though? The other quarterbacks that are on the Pierce and Yeah, the other kids, how'd they look?
They looked pretty good too.
Vince
The
is in preseason form here.
I know,
Pierce
right?
and the other kids.
Pearson
We'll-
Dim Boys.
We'll get
Dim
there,
boys.
man. We'll
I
learn
love-
the names once the kids actually get their numbers. We'll get there.
Right.
There
So
was a 5th-year senior.
Yeah. So I know when I wrote my 5 questions for spring practice piece, like the very first one I wrote about, like, okay, who's going to win the backup quarterback position? Because we know it's going to be Shough. So
Do we?
yeah,
Do we?
yeah,
I
yeah,
feel like
it's-
I'm not willing to go there yet. I want to
I'm-
wait and see.
how much
It
would
shouldn't be. I'm not saying I want to bet anything. I just want to wait and see. Like, I feel like that's the most. I get the point of that, but like, let's earn it. Like, let's make sure we have a competition.
Yeah,
here.
I know, but like on that note, I feel like he's going to earn it.
Right, but that's fine, right? If he wins it, then he wins it. But let's not say like I don't want if I like this is my personal opinion. I don't want an announcement on who the quarterback is after spring. I want to wait and I want to get to fall camp. Like I want these guys to compete because last year we talked about Jack was the guy no matter what. Like Jeff was not going to turn away from him. This season the leash is shorter. There are other guys ready to go. They've been here. My point is, Matt, I like this spring is so important for Pierce and Brady and Harrison Bailey and Deuce. Well, I don't Deuce Adams isn't here yet, so I don't know if he counts
No,
yet.
not
But,
yet.
but those guys, like because Pierce theoretically should be ready to go. Like we should be getting to that point where he's pushing for at least a package. He's pushing for a quarter. Greg Brom told us last year they don't shy away from 2 quarterbacks.
Shough
Like
should feel uncomfortable.
that's what I'm saying, man.
In my opinion,
Yeah.
but he should notice the fact that okay, this kid is only 1 or 2 plays away from getting it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you're still not going to get the consistency in practice and stuff, which is where Shough should win battle with the consistency in practice. But there will be a couple plays where you're like, that right that's a head nod. You know, that we might need to pull the trigger if push comes to shove. I don't know. We'll see.
Mhm.
He said, mm-hmm.
Yeah,
One
but-
practice overreaction. Yeah.
Coming
So
from a
I'll-
Colts fan.
Hey, I'm going to hop on Matt's side here. And I wasn't there, so I wasn't able to watch, but just the arm talent that Shough has displayed while he was healthy, it wouldn't shock me at all if he's the clear runaway favorite for the starter job coming out of spring ball. Now, I'm with you, Jacob. I want to
Jeff
see
wants
it.
him to win.
I want it to
right?
competition. Let my
Right.
boy Harrison Bailey cook.
That's what everybody's saying right now, man. If you go to the Kroger up the street, everybody's saying, "Let Harrison Bailey cook," man. But in all honesty, I want I felt like one of the and Vince, maybe you disagree here, but I felt like one of the things with Malik is there was never enough competition to make him uncomfortable with that extra bad, with that extra chance that wasn't there, or with a game in the final moments, and he makes 2 bad bonehead decisions, and he gets a penalty and he throws a pick. I want to see Tyler Shough be pushed this offseason because, yes, he's shown that he's flashy and that he is a talented player, but he's never been able to consistently play from start to finish. And if that's the case, if history and trends show you that, I'm not one that's going to buy that that's going to change this year. And if that's the case, all of these guys need to be ready to go. It needs to be open for everyone to compete for this. And we should not be just saying because you're a 7th-year guy, you got our premier NIL package that you're the guy. No. Pierce came here with a mission. I don't know if the website's still down, so maybe that mission is still loading. But
Check your Wi-Fi, bro.
Flyville is supposed to be a thing, and at this point, if Pierce doesn't see the field this year, I think we're looking at the end of that pretty quickly. In the
Speaking
landscape
on
of college football.
Flyville, man, Matt, we saw some interesting comments from Coach English today at the press conference.
yeah.
Yeah, that could be your
Why don't
third thing
you-
to know.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all packaging together. This one was eating at me. I wanted to hear your opinion on this.
Well, let me touch upon the backups real quick first. So, Harrison Bailey and Pierce Clarkson were like 2A and 2B. I think Harrison kind of started out as like the backup in most of the periods, and then as the practice went on, Pierce kind of took on those backup reps. And Harrison, he's also got a really strong arm. I think he's got really good footwork in the pocket. Pierce, he had a couple bad throws early in the practice, but he eventually settled in. And I think, honestly, he probably had the best throw out of anyone in practice. There was this practice to the sideline that I was on where he threw and just got barely over the defender into a tight window. That was impressive.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? Are you seeing like I'm trying to figure I don't want to compare him to Lamar, but like when guys they come in and they're heralded, like you see glimpses of of greatness. Like, are you seeing that with Pierce from what you saw in practices last year that were open to media, and then with like, is there glimpses of like you're like, man, like that is what he's special? You know what I mean? Like, are you seeing that?
There are, because I remember in excuse me, in last fall when he was healthy. I mean, he looked poised, he was confident, and like and with his abilities as a thrower, he looked really good. And something that I saw towards the end of this practice is where like there was like maybe a 10-minute period where whoever the quarterback was in, it was specifically designed like, okay, you're going to use your legs first, like either as a design QB run or you're going to roll out to one direction. So everyone kind of got in on that action. And then when we saw Pierce do it, in terms of his initial first step and his burst leaving the pocket, whether it's to extend the play or on a design run, bar none, he's got the quickest burst out of any quarterback, and it's not even close. Again, first practice, and I haven't seen them consistently do it, but that was something that I picked up. That was something that I picked up on whenever like he was using his legs. Like he was quick.
Yeah, I like that. All right, let's touch on the bad, which is what I kind of alluded to at the beginning of the show, in that Jeff Brom and Ron English both have been very
about as vocal as you can be to the media.
Yes, about their team and expectations. I mean, I think let me just kind of set the stage here. I think that the expectation was they were right there last year. They went to the ACC championship. They fell just short. They had some things break that, you know, went the opposite way. The bowl game obviously was a massive failure. Everybody came back. You have Quincy, you have Ashton, you bring in this talented class. And the expectation was they were going to come in ready to roll. Like spring practice was going to be like training camp almost. Like we're ready to go. Season's here. The goal, we know the mission. Playoff is now big, 12 teams. And that does not seem to be the case, Matt.
So let me preface what English's comments were with. Like I wanted to know like with the state of the linebacker room is it exceeded expectations last year, and they bring back pretty much everyone, and then they add another piece. I mean, you've got TJ Quinn who came back, who was the team's leading tackler. Jalen Alderman took a large step forward. Stanquan Clark is obviously someone who's uber talented and's got a high ceiling and is looking to kind of continue on that. And then you bring in Juriente Davis from Texas A&M, and while he wasn't super productive with the Aggies, he is someone that the staff is really high on, and when I saw some reps out of him during that first spring practice, he did look really good. So I do anticipate him kind of being like a contributor. So with all that in mind, I wanted to ask Ron English, so hey, what's going to be the expected role with TJ Capers? Because he's kind of like that tweener. He can play inside linebacker. He can play that like outside like standing edge rusher. Like he can play all over the front seven, like especially as whether it's in pass coverage or on the edge rushing the passers. So I just was curious. So what kind of role or what's kind of expected for TJ Capers? And he was disappointed, to say the least, because Ron English is someone where like when you ask him a question, he gets immediately into the answer. I ask him the question, he pauses for like 5 seconds, and like while he's staring at me, I couldn't tell if he couldn't hear me or if he was pissed that I'd asked the question, because he's just staring at me and I can tell there's something eating at him, but this is before he's opened his mouth to give the answer, and I'm like, oh fuck, what's he about to say?
This was the look of a man who was really biting his tongue hard. And for those of you who haven't seen the clip, I'll go ahead and throw it in right here.
I got to see more. I don't anticipate any role yet. TJ's got to do what we ask him to do. Whatever it is we ask him to do that. He's got to do that. He's got to. There's some things that we've asked him to do that he has not done, and it as you can tell, I'm not pleased about it at all. So he's gonna. We want him to have a role. We brought him here to do that. He's a recruited guy, but he's got to do what we ask him to do, and it's not optional. So he needs to do that.
That's about as scathing of a remark as you can get from a coach to the media. And I mean, shout out Matt for getting the topic du jour on the football team, asking the hard-hitting questions.
I wasn't even trying to ask a hard-hitting question. I was genuinely curious because, I mean, linebacker is a lot deeper than we thought this time last year. So,
about our 5-star highest ranked signee.
Yeah, you've got a 5-star guy who's the second or third highest ranked guy to ever commit to your program, and he's not seen the field yet. And he was an early enrollee so that he could use the program to kind of rehab. So
he came in injured, right? And they talked about at the beginning of last season that he was trying to really focus on that. But like towards the end of the season, there was an obvious need for more pass rushing from that stand-up, edge spot. They were looking for more guys to toss in, and he never got on the field. And it made you wonder, like, that kind of talent, he reclassifies up, like, okay, I get it, maybe red shirting, but you still would expect to see some type of snaps. And then for the coaching staff to kind of come out and, quite frankly, put him on blast, like, I totally understand the need for that. But it's just really interesting to me that we're already at that point with spring ball. And Matt, I think Jeff Brom was the one that mentioned, or maybe it was Ron English, that there was either a position group or like a number of position groups that came back to camp out of shape.
English was just kind of speaking in generalities. Like it was a combination of, guys kind of out of shape, guys kind of, getting back into the swing of things and not knowing entirely what to do and having all these newcomers. Now, of course, he sees a lot more than we do, so he's kind of more privy to what's actually going on behind the scenes.
Jeff Brom had comments too, though, about guys not being. I could have sworn, maybe I'm crazy, but didn't Jeff?
He said there were a lot of mistakes. That's what his quote was. But I mean, like it's the first practice of spring. You're not going to be crisp. I mean, they didn't even hit, and they ran like very vanilla schemes and plays and everything. You're not going to bust out the playbook day one.
There's still like a level of expectations for this base offense and defense that they're going out there, and you expect it to train correctly because you're doing these, we call them PLPs with Satterfield, the player-led practices. Can't remember what the term was for Petrino and Brom. They use the same one, but basically those, agility type drills that you see them do in the offseason that's mixed in on the lift like Monday to Friday, but Tuesday and Thursday will be the day they're doing these agilities and the PLP player-led practice. Well, they're running their defense and stuff. So you have an expectation for these guys like TJ Capers and these newcomers to at least be getting the general gist and going in the right freaking direction. Yeah, I mean, you can't get comfortable with where you're at. Like we were on the cusp of winning the ACC last year, and you just can't get comfortable. This is the time to put, pedal to the metal, foot on the gas.
Yeah,
you should be nipping at the butt, hoping, the season. Nobody should be out of shape.
Go ahead, Keith.
I would say, and I'm on board with you, Vince. I think it may just be a hard-ass approach, but I'm going to go a little bit in defense of just the players as a whole. Now, I can't cope for TJ individually, but part of me, was skeptical about the spring calendar because you have the first practices back a day after spring break.
After spring break, right. Yeah,
they're 18 to 23-year-old kids. They're probably spending the first half of practice throwing up and just getting some of those toxins out of their body.
My freshman year, I went to Fort Lauderdale and then had to go the same exact schedule and go to a Petrino, Sunday, Monday practice.
Yeah. And plus, and I'm not going to try and act like I know like the spring schedule for every football team out there, but it seems like Louisville has one of like the later starts to spring ball than most other teams in the ACC in college football. Cause I've seen like other people in the network that I cover and they're talking about, we're a couple of practices in the spring ball and I'm over here like Louisville doesn't start for another week.
Yeah. But Louisville, the way that it was under Satterfield, I always thought it made no sense was they would start early and go to spring break right in the middle of spring practice. It never made any sense to me. I mean, if you guys remember, we had an interview in spring practice 2 years ago, right after, I forget who it was, but they literally had just gotten back from spring break and they were going right back into spring practice. And I remember being like, that's so odd that they take a break in spring practice to go to spring break. Like that seems
It's
counterproductive.
more of a, don't go anywhere.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what's coming when you get back, so
Know
think
what's
about it.
Right.
I thought about it as a freshman in Fort Lauderdale on a Wednesday.
I'm gonna pay for this. Yeah,
Halfway through
exactly.
kicking.
Well, there were some other interesting comments that were more positive from Ron English, and I think we have a phrase that's gonna have some staying power around here. We're all about the
we got some
dudes.
dudes comment. Yeah.
Yeah, these dudes are
Yeah.
These dudes are some dudes. Like that's. I mean, that is just right up our alley here. But the secondary completely rebuilt. You get back MJ Griffin, Matt. This group looks to be dangerous. You know, you bring in the transfer from Illinois, you bring in Corey Thornton, you have MJ Griffin, you have Devin Neal, you have these other safeties that are coming in that with a lot of just potential and production. Shout out to Trinity, Blake Ruffin, man. I want to make sure I throw him in there because Trinity guy from FCS too, man. That's talking about the dedication to football from Trinity, that he goes to Eastern Illinois and transfers up to Louisville. Like that's Vince, that could have been you, man. That could have been you, bro.
I did camp at Indiana State. That was sick.
Yeah, and you said, didn't Murray offer you? And
Moorhead.
yeah, Moorhead. Okay, so see, man, it could
Also
have
in
been you.
NCAA tournament. Maybe they were recruiting me for basketball.
Yeah, maybe. There you
Maybe,
go. And the video. One of the best things that I saw online the last couple of weeks is the Russian slam ball, where the guys can run up behind
Oh
you.
God, yes. Where you can
their
suplex
shirt
someone
off.
when you rip your shirt off. Yeah.
Man, the UFC guys, Islam Makhachev and his whole team, all the Dagestani dudes, they played that shit, man. It is so funny to watch. They don't even dribble.
Yeah, that's just
they
how
don't.
you play basketball.
I do
Like
not.
that's total. Everybody
will
has
cook
that
you.
friend. But here's my point. That might, sure, okay, I'll let you have that for right this second. I'm out of shape. I'm getting there. I'm getting some muscle, bro. Like I'm out here in the gym. Like I'm trying, but I can't. I might not be ready for basketball. But what I will say is, everybody has that friend who doesn't play basketball in a skilled way. They played in I'm going to foul you all five
That's
times, and I'm going to
ridiculous.
make you feel all five of my fouls.
More like
Five to
three,
give, baby.
because I'm not
Yeah.
fouling out. I'm a smart ball player, but there will be three that you
And
100% feel.
I was gonna say, and I'll feel all three of those.
Why would you not? You're gonna
Yup.
make
Right.
sure. I mean,
So let's talk about this, Matt, and Keith. I want to get your opinion on this. One of the things I'm worried about is the split of new faces, existing faces, and having to kind of, in this day and age in the culture of college football, you have to rebuild your roster year over year, and it makes for continuity purposes very, a bit more of a challenge. I wonder and do fear, Louisville's win total is projected right now at I think 9.5. Like they're a hot team. And I wonder if there is kind of this letdown where you see maybe a little bit of regression, not to the extent of this example, but like Matt, think of like Arkansas on the basketball side this year, right? Like they've had it roll.
Yeah.
I know, sorry, that's a bad example, but you know my point in that there occasionally it doesn't always go smoothly, right? And that potential is there, but what I'm getting at is Louisville returns Ashton Gillette and Quincy Riley, and a ton of other guys. But I want to specifically talk about those two because they should be setting the tone for spring practice of what's on the line. What did you sense from just what you saw? Again, first practice, like no overreactions, but just did you sense a different level of I saw Ashton's mom, Veronica. Like Ashton wants to win player of the year, the defensive end of the year, have the school sack record. I'm here for it. But did you sense an elevated level of intensity between those guys who are first round picks next year if they do their job correctly?
Ashton, not nearly as much, and that's only really because it's the first practice and you can't really hit. And Ashton plays at a position that's a lot more physical than Quincy does. Now with Quincy, I absolutely picked up on that just because he made play after play after play. He looked very much like someone who's going to be a high round NFL draft pick next year. There was a spot in one-on-ones where I can't remember who he was up against, but he made a really good jumping kind of lean over his shoulder and stretch out his arm for a PBU. There was another play where he had a really nice diving pass breakup. Yeah, no, he is someone who I think Louisville's gonna lean on a lot in terms of their production in the secondary, but not lean on to the point where like he's the sole guy that they lean on. Because I mean, English, I mean, you heard the comment. I mean, he went from basically chastising Capers to I think it was the very next question where he's talking as glowingly about the group of transfer corners that I've ever heard him talk about anyone.
Yeah.
Like Taz Nicholson, Corey Thornton, Tayon Holloway. He legitimately thinks that this could be the best cornerback room that he's ever been a part of. And he's been around the block some. So
Yeah.
he's seen some dudes.
That's fun.
I'm here for it. And they need it, right? Because last year, you know, when Jarvis was not healthy and it was just Storm Duck and Trey Franklin and, you know, some of the other cast of characters that were on the roster, there just wasn't a ton of production. They need guys to step up. And Quincy only had, I think, like 3 interceptions last year, 4. They just need more production from everybody. And it's a iron sharpens iron type of scenario, in my
I
opinion.
think he
for
was
those
still like
guys.
top 3 or 5 in the ACC in total pass defenses, though.
Yeah, right. He was there.
His
right.
his interception number wasn't, what you might expect, but he was still getting his hand in the mix.
Yeah,
Can't get
for
picks
sure.
if they don't throw it at you.
That's right.
But,
Yeah, right. Riley Island was a real deal, man.
Yeah, with regards to the intensity, I'm not freaking out about it yet, just because it's spring ball and we have over half of the starters that we're going to have are all going to be newcomers to the team. So, and Vince, you'll know because you played as well. Spring ball was more about coaching and learning.
Yeah.
And when it comes to ramp up and really get that toxic masculine energy going, it's time to bust some heads. That's training camp, which
that's where you get fights and crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
And another thing so a lot of people sort of talk about how they don't like Louisville's schedule for the year, that 7-game gauntlet they have to go on. The spin zone of that. And now so I'm normally very coach pilled, where it's like, we're talking about Austin P and Jacksonville State. It's like, hey, Austin P gave Tennessee 60 minutes of hell last year. They'll do the same thing to you if you let them. If Louisville plays like we're all projecting them to, with the week 0 bye, Austin P, Jacksonville State, who good Sunbelt team, but I'm going to be fan pilled right now. And then another bye week. That's essentially an extra month of training camp too.
That's a good
guys
point.
up to speed, ready to go, learning
That's
the
a great
offense.
point.
So we should be plugged in and ready to hum by the time Georgia Tech comes here on the 21st.
Yeah, give their quarterback hell. What's his name again? I forgot his name.
Oh, I'm texting Robbie.
Haynes King.
Haynes King.
Yeah,
Bill's not going to be sleeping that whole week.
Yeah, just in the middle. You know he's living hell that week, anyways. But you're just gonna make it worse. Text him in the middle of the night.
Him.
Yeah, and as soon as he answers, just for the 15th time, you just continue to hang up.
What are you doing? In a meeting right now? Huh? Did your phone go up?
I still, I was just having this conversation at the gym, I think last week, about the win total being 9.5. I asked the question, would you take the over or under on that? And I'm still at this point, kind of flip-flopping, but I still think that the over is possible and that this team could 100% be a playoff team, an ACC championship team, even with the trip to Death Valley. Like, this team is due to beat Clemson. The trip to South Bend, they've done it before. Jeff Brom, it's not as if he's never dealt with that environment. I don't know. Maybe he hasn't. That's researcher Keith. Maybe get on that and see if Jeff Brom is playing in Notre Dame. Delete that. If
I'm
not,
pretty sure Purdue
Catholic.
had
He's Catholic. He'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll fit right in. They'll welcome him, and he'll feel welcome. And yeah.
Purdue is one of Notre Dame's 27 rivalry games, so I assume they would have played there in the time he was there.
Yeah, so Jeff Brom will feel comfortable going into that environment. We've already won there before. Just get Reggie out there with the team to travel. We'll be good to go. You got the trip out to Palo Alto. You have SMU at home. Like, you do have some new opponents, but I still feel pretty confident that this team could win 10 games and be right up there. And I'm not freaking out. Like, I don't want our audience to listen to this and be like, oh, this freaking guy is sounding the alarms on the first practice. No, I'm just saying I expect a level of professionalism isn't the right word, because it's not as if they're not being professional, but I expect a level of just a mentality switch to the next level of like, just business is business. Like,
Ours
we
been
know
right.
exactly what is at stake and what we're here to do. And every snap, every day, it counts. It counts towards something. And I say that as somebody who never played high level football, but I've heard coaches say that in social media videos. So I know it to be true. I know it to be true, right?
I mean, you get the vibes of like this, like special teams and stuff like that, and like when you're around a lot of good talent and everything like that. So
yeah.
I
And
assume that these
also,
guys. Go ahead.
don't act like you didn't want to go to spring football. You probably did not want to do that. It was,
No,
especially
no.
when it was cold. Like,
I
no,
heard
I don't want
every year.
any. Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, you hate spring football, but like, this is an ultimate test of your will to fight, to show up daily. Like, this
Please
is the
don't say
dog
that
days.
word. I'm so
I'm
tired.
sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. No, I didn't mean to do that.
No.
To spar daily.
To battle.
To battle daily. We don't say the F word around here anymore. That word is banned from our vocabulary. But your point proven, Vince. Like, you're right. You don't want to do it. So it's just a battle of your mind, of getting out there and having that mentality of every day matters, and I have
Man,
to take this snap as if it's my last.
It was worse as a student assistant in spring ball.
Yeah, because you still got to prep.
Oh, yeah.
Man, my last year of spring football, B Brown wanted us to grade every single position individually while we were watching it as a support staff. And then we had to, I mean, by the time we sat down and watched this film with the players, I had seen it by like 5 times already. And I'm like,
Jeez.
why am I up here at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday in the middle
Can
of
I
whatever
just go home?
Don't remember that big ice snowstorm that happened like during 2021 ish. Like there was a big ice storm, and like all our cars are outside, right? I had a whole inch and a half. I should have might as well just stayed at the stadium.
Yeah, they're at that point. They're like, Vince, just stay here, man,
Yeah,
and watch film while you're sitting in your
What do you
office.
think
with
Brew
nothing to
did?
do. Right, exactly. Right. These football guys are crazy like that, where they can sit and watch film for 12 hours a day with nothing else on their
Tell you what,
brains.
Frank Ponce was not sitting up there.
No, that's a Miami in him right there, man. So, all right, well, let's do this, fellas. Let's go ahead. We've talked enough about spring football. I think the audience kind of gets the memo. I think it's important. Tyler Shough seems to be doing well. We got some work to do. Guys need to get in shape. April 19th for the spring game it'll be a really interesting eye test as to where they've come and how far they are. I'm hoping to see them clicking and humming at that point as if it's midseason. Yes.
Is there any early like weather reports for spring game? Like anything early?
That's what, 31 days out. I'm not
man,
sure
but, like,
any meteorologist is predicting weather that far out yet. Maybe
man,
though.
I want to know.
Keith, you got a
want
homework
rain.
assignment, man.
Oh,
You
okay.
I just don't want rain or snow or anything.
No, I won't. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna say I won't be there if it rains, but I might have to think about it a little bit if it rains.
No, you won't
I'm not-
be there.
Sunny
if
and
it rains, you're
75,
soft
subject
ass.
to change.
Okay, there we go. That's unofficial weather report.
Good shit.
Who cares? You're not going to remember that when it gets close enough, if that's right or not. So let's go ahead, transition to Bryan Hudson. He joins the show to talk about his Louisville football career. And he goes into detail about some of the injury challenges this year. Look at us breaking the HIPAA laws the last couple of weeks with Evan. Now, Bryan, we're asking the medical questions. But it's a fascinating interview, and Bryan is just the epitome of Louisville football in terms of the blue collar mentality of going to work. So stick around. We got an exciting interview here, and we will continue to pump out the content, as I mentioned, next Thursday night. What's the date? The 28th. March 28th. We will be there for the first live show from the Pink Seats podcast, live after dark. I might take my shirt off. We'll see. Who knows?
Don't do that.
I feel like that'll break the internet in a good way, Matt. I don't know.
It'll make a great short.
Yes, it sure would. That's right. It's all about, at this point, just content, whatever we need to do. All right, Bryan Hudson joins the show next.
And we are here with Bryan Hudson, former center for the University of Louisville. Bryan, how are you doing? How has things been since the season has ended?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I appreciate y'all having me on, and things have been going really well. I was fortunate enough to play in the Hula Bowl pretty much right after the season ended, and so really just got right back to it after our bowl game and played in the Hula Bowl, and then from then on, I've just been training for pro day and the draft. So everything's been going really well.
How was the bowl game? What was it like getting to, experience that, different players from all around the country and everything like that? So I'm pretty sure Jack was there as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, Jack was there. Isaac, there were a few other players that were supposed to be there, but I think Storm played in the game too, but yeah, it was really cool. I mean, it was awesome to be able to compete against a lot of those guys. Obviously a lot, some of the best players in the country coming out this year. So it was really good exposure, really good to compete against them, and also just kind of talk to scouts. That was my first real interview process, I guess, with them. So I was able to talk to a lot of teams, and it was it was really fun and great experience, and made a lot of good friendships throughout that as well. It was just a really fun week, and it was really, really, really cool to be able to snap to Jack there in a Senior Bowl like that.
Yeah, did
setting.
y'all have like a Shockey and Manning moment where y'all like hugged at the end, like one last moment?
It was Jeff Saturday, Vince. Come on, get it right.
Saturday.
I'm sorry. I'm not that dedicated to my offensive lineman. I'm not gonna lie.
So Bryan, are you still in Louisville?
No, so I've been training down in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I've been here since right after the Hula Bowl in January, and I'll be coming back to Louisville this Saturday because the pro day is the 26th. So,
and you mentioned training, getting ready for the NFL draft, preparing, and all that good stuff physically. And I know during the actual season, Brom made mention that like during practice weeks, you didn't practice because you were injured, but when it came time for game day, you were ready to go. So physically, how do you feel since the end of the season?
Yeah, I mean, right now and for most of this training process, I felt really good. It's really giving me time to, let my body rest and recover, obviously, and to be able to just train and get my body right through this whole process. Like you said, not even just for pro day, but and this upcoming season, but just from the injuries and kind of bumps and bruises that I had to play through all the way throughout last season. So yeah, I mean, I'm feeling really good. That time that I had really did wonders for my knee and my body. So yeah, it's been good.
And just out of sheer curiosity, because Brom is pretty secretive when it comes to injuries, what were you dealing with?
Matt, that's a HIPAA violation, buddy. You can't do that, man. You can't ask that question. I'm just kidding. You can't.
Sorry.
It's been all around our show.
No, yeah, I mean it's no secret at this point, because it's not like the NFL teams don't know, but yeah, so I guess it was week 4 of the season. We were playing Boston College, and it was I think it was in the third quarter, but it was just it was a non-contact, kind of deal, and nothing really, crazy happened, but my knee just kind of felt a little bit unstable throughout the game. The end of the game there, and I had the trainers check it out. Everything was fine, so I just kept playing. But we got an MRI the next morning, and it turned out I had a grade 2 PCL sprain or strain. So yeah, I was just kind of dealing with that throughout the whole season, and just kind of made my right knee, kind of unstable, because if y'all are like me, I didn't know what really a PCL was when they were talking about it. But
hey, you come out a doctor after all the rehab and treatment and everything that you do with the training staff throughout the season. So I definitely, yeah,
that's for sure. So,
okay, so I've got a follow-up question to that. So you said that was Boston College. So Pittsburgh is what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after that, right?
Yeah, 3 weeks, because I know we having BC, we played at NC State, then Notre Dame, and then Pitt was the third week, I think.
So we talked a little bit about this, and I obviously was not there, have no idea, but we talked about the Pittsburgh game, the field conditions, Renato Brown going down before the game. It felt like it kind of like shook you all a little bit, just in terms of when watching. It seemed like everybody was just a little bit of a step slower. So now knowing this for you, Like, what's that like playing on a field like that where you're already not trusting your knee? Like, was that a really tough game for you to kind of battle through?
Yeah, I would say so. You know, just obviously with Nato there, it happened in warmups, like everybody knows, and it was an absolute freak thing that happened. I mean, it would happen right in front of me. I just got done with my rep, if I'm remembering correctly, and I just remember I turned around and just saw him go to the ground, and he started, screaming and grabbing his leg, and I was like, "Oh no, what in the world?" Because I'd played at Pitt before, and I knew that it was just not the best field
Right.
by any
Right.
means. And plus, it's always raining when you go up there. It seems like it was that day, and um, just nasty conditions. So yeah, it was a little nerve wracking. I'm not gonna lie going into that game, but I trusted myself. Obviously I wore knee braces with which helped, but I just kind of stayed
Yeah.
faithful, just kept pushing through because like I've mentioned before, it's not like I wasn't gonna play. No matter what
Right.
happened,
Oh,
I
that's
played.
so. Yeah, that was a lot I wanted to hear right there. It's not like he wasn't not going to play. That was.
Yeah,
I mean, there was no doubt throughout the year, Brian. I don't know what your practice schedule was like. That was my follow-up question. That since we're on this topic, is what like were you in a yellow? Were you in an orange throughout the week? And like how much contact and stuff were you limited to? And does it really like do you realize like you're one of the toughest SOBs that's ever been through this program to be able to do some of the shit like that?
I appreciate that. That's a big compliment for me. And but yeah, it was really weird because I don't know. I'm trying to think. I don't know if I've ever really sat out of a practice before this past season, or missed a portion of practice of the practice. But it was just. I mean, it was new to me. I just had to trust Sean and the training staff we have. They're outstanding, and Coach Reno, the strength staff that we got, they obviously did a tremendous. They do always do a tremendous job, but I can speak. It's definitely from my experience in this year, just getting me ready, and the whole idea, especially early on after that happened, was just to get me to Saturday, and we had Thursday and Friday were more slowed down kind of walkthrough days where we're just running through plays against the scout team and the opposing defense, and um, so I was able to do those for sure every week. I was able to do the walkthroughs and Fridays and most of Thursday, most weeks on Thursday.
Friday's like a run through.
Well, it was actually flipped from when you were coaching. Thursdays like the run through, and Fridays just no pads, just to walk through. Yeah, so
that make a lot more sense. Yeah, continue.
yeah, yeah, but yeah. So through the week, I mean, it varied. I mean, they held me at it. I didn't do any team drills at all. Definitely not good on good, but obviously most weeks, or especially early on in the season, and really till the end, we have pads on for Tuesday and Wednesday. So really most of that they kind of held me out of. I was just kind of over on the side with Sean or one of the trainers, kind of just going through steps on my own, and spent a lot of time in the pool, in the training room, and just trying to get right and go through movements and mimic the blocks in the pool as best you can. And
Oh yeah, how much time did you spend in that underwater treadmill?
Oh yeah, a lot, a lot, many hours.
That's where I discovered I could sweat in a pool. I had no clue I could
Yeah,
until I got in there and started doing workouts.
exactly. Yeah, it gets rough sometimes, but yeah, spent a lot of time in there, and it helped. But yeah, it was just kind of week to week, just figuring it out, because I mean, it wasn't at first. It was nothing that I necessarily needed surgery for. The doctor, he said that if it was any worse, then we would definitely consider. But I was kind of right on the edge to where he said, guys play through this sometimes, and it just depends on really what you want to do. So, yeah, I mean,
and you were like, bet.
Yeah, that's all you need
Right,
to hear. Yeah.
exactly. I mean, I knew because after that game, obviously we were getting on a roll. I knew the team that we had, and it was my senior year. I didn't redshirt or anything, so that COVID year was my last year. So, I knew we had a couple big games coming up, and we had a stretch there where we had some need to win games, obviously, and some big ones versus some ranked opponents. So there was no way I was going to miss any game, as I've said, but especially not those. So I just told them, that I would do whatever it took. I was spent pretty much all day in the training room before practice, and before early in the mornings and everything. So it was, yeah. I mean, like I've said, it was just all credit to the training staff and what they were able to do with me.
So
It was fun to follow this year, Brian. I mean, it was fun for us to cover. So we appreciate you being able to do that. That's for sure.
I appreciate that.
The amputation line. I think Jeff Brom had the line that you'd have to amputate
Yeah,
him
right.
to keep him off the field. I mean, that's like in the pantheon of great football lines in Louisville. I mean, at least from our show, it's up there as one of the all timers. So let's transition back just a little bit, because I'm curious, being a Kentuckian, your perspective on this, right? So you go to Virginia Tech out of high school, you spend a couple years there, go back into the portal. Tell me the battle, if any, or what it was like, or maybe even just your recruitment in general back before Virginia Tech, but Louisville, Kentucky. Like, was there any conflict there? Did you grow up a Kentucky fan? Like, it's okay, this is a safe space if you did. I'm good, because I would imagine in your part of the state, big Kentucky area. But just take us through, like, was there any battle there, or was it always going to be just Louisville, in terms of Virginia Tech after you left?
Yeah, especially, well, I'll start here. Like you said, like you mentioned, the part of the state where I grew up, I'm from Georgetown, and that area, Georgetown, Williamstown, kind of, which is right there in Lexington's backyard. So, pretty much, there's a lot of my family and extended family. Most of my friends are Kentucky fans, from back home, and so I would not say that I was a Kentucky fan. We were kind of impartial growing up. We were just college football fans, obviously, and because I mean, I've been playing football for a long time, so from an early age. But I wouldn't say that I grew up a Kentucky fan, but like I said, most of my friends and even a lot of my family are, and even still are. But yeah, so after my time at Virginia Tech, when I entered the portal, there was, both Kentucky and Louisville were coming after me. I think actually Kentucky was the first phone call that was made to me. So I remember talking to both of them on the phone, and it was still right after COVID. That was still going on, so I wasn't able to make any visits or anything. So I remember, talking to Pete again, just over FaceTime and Zoom calls with the Coach Satterfield at the time and Coach Ledford, who was the O-line coach. But to be honest, during that time, I there was really no interest in Kentucky. I knew that I wanted to come to Louisville.
Great answer.
Right. For one, I had two older sisters that were already here. One of which was on the track team, which was pretty cool. I got to compete with her for a year.
That's awesome.
And yeah, that was really cool. So that was a draw, but also just I knew the program from growing up. Like I said, my sister had went here. She had been at Louisville at that time for like 5 years. So, she had been a part of the track program. I knew those coaches. I knew, I'd been able to talk to a couple guys on the team while I was in the portal here. One of them being Robbie Bell. So I had some DM exchanges on Instagram with him, and just talking about Ledford and the program itself. And I knew that it was the place I wanted to be. So that was a fairly easy decision coming into the portal there after my sophomore year.
So just no thought whatsoever considering Georgetown College out of high school?
Well, they never offered me anything, so
Oh, that's because I wasn't there. So well, I was telling the guys before the show. So now this is going back about a decade. So
yeah,
put yourself back in little Bryan Hudson's shoes back in 2014. You're throwing for Scott. Would that be middle school at that point still, or
yeah, I think my 8th grade year, yeah.
So Georgetown, of course, our throwers practicing out at Scott County's facilities because we don't have a track and AIA school problems.
Yeah.
And so I was the throws coach at Georgetown at that point in time. And of course, I remember your mom, Mandy, coming over and talking to us and asking, like, oh, yeah, he's with the middle school here. Can he work in with the team, get some reps in practice? And I was telling them, it's like, yeah, and I see this little, like, probably 5'9, 5'10, probably 12, 13-year-old kid come up and just start throwing rockets out of nowhere. So I'm talking to your mom and I'm like, I mean, you interested in him staying close to home? Like, he's obviously got time, but hey, I need guys at Georgetown, so if he's interested. And I can happily say, happiest I've ever been not to land a recruit, Bryan.
It sounds like we can thank the track and field team more than we can thank the football team. Bryan Hudson here. I mean,
Right. No. That's really cool. I didn't realize that. That's awesome. Yeah, I remember many practices even going into high school, the Georgetown College coming over when I would go out there and kind of mixing in with them. That's a pretty cool story.
This is the most Louisville thing ever about our show right here. That just happened, right? Like you always say, Louisville's the smallest big town you've ever been in your life. I mean, what are the odds of that? It's just crazy. Well, let me ask this, Vince. I'm going to steal your question here, if you don't mind. But I want to ask. So you obviously play for Scott Satterfield and have a lot of success, and we'll get into some of the versatility. I'm really interested in that as a non-offensive lineman. Actually, I was an offensive lineman as a kid because I was a little chubby, so I shouldn't say never played offensive line, but not an experienced offensive lineman, but yourself. But so Jeff Brom comes in. Is there any thoughts on new coach? I'm going to use this opportunity to get in the portal, maybe get some NIL, or was it always that you were locked in on staying with Louisville throughout that process?
Yeah, to be honest, I had thought about it. It crossed my mind when that happened. Like maybe I could look to go somewhere else, but really there was no urge or anything for me to want to go anywhere. I knew that like my wife was here also with me here at the U of L, so that was obviously a huge draw to want to stay, but just the program itself and, regardless of who the coach was, I knew that we would bring in a good coach. Obviously Coach Baum was one of the most brought up names and the number one guy that everybody wanted. So I knew if that was the case that we'd be in a really good spot, but regardless that, this is the place that I wanted to be. I have obviously, I feel like it's pretty obvious now. I have a lot of pride and, just care for this university, as a whole, not only just the football program. So, I would say that no matter what, I was going to stay here. And to be honest, the NIL really wasn't a big draw for me. I've talked about it with several guys on the team, even today, as crazy as NIL is right now. I never asked for really any money. That was never anything that I wanted to really get into right now in college, because the real like life-changing, long-lasting money is at the next level. So, that's always what I had in mind, what I wanted to work towards, just like everybody else. So obviously NIL is a great thing, and I think it's awesome that college athletes are able to get paid now for what they do and the amount of money that they do make for universities. But for me, that just wasn't really anything that I would make me change my mind or make me want to go anywhere else. So, I was locked into U of L, and that wasn't going to change.
So on
chills. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah. speaking the Louisville love language right here, man. A little bit of loyalty is a good thing that goes a long way. So one of the things that I really admire about you as an offensive lineman is versatility. Vince will tell you that versatility in any position is something that I talk a lot about. I'm not sure if you can do a backflip, which I would say is the ultimate decision when
that video of Trevor was posted, man, this was
this man went crazy.
And the combine, the guy's just flipping on the way out. Like it's an incredible thing. But your versatility, you were able to play 3 positions in your time at Louisville. And as a guy who never played high level football, I'm just curious, like, what does it take? And what are the big differences between playing center and then playing right guard, left guard? Like to some people that may seem like, oh, you're just sliding over a position. But what does it really mean to be versatile at those positions the way that you were under Scott Satterfield before you really kind of exclusively landed on playing center under Jeff Brom?
Yeah, that was from the second I stepped into college football. That was something that I knew was very important, and that's what's going to get somebody on the field and make somebody the most valuable. Obviously, that's why we're having this conversation. Is how important versatility is because injuries happen and you never know what the case may be or when your time is called. And that's just I knew that was what was going to get me on the field the fastest. And to be honest with you, I'll tell you just a real quick story. That's exactly what got me on the field in the first place. My freshman year at Virginia Tech, I actually came in as a right tackle because I was a tackle in college. I mean, in high school, and so he kept me at tackle. I was, athletic enough to play it. I got pretty long arms and everything, so that was a position that I could play. But all that summer and even the first week and a half, 2 weeks of fall camp, I was getting every rep at kind of rotating with the 2 right tackle, taking reps with the 3s, and because I was a true freshman, and our starting center got hurt or banged up. He had an ankle sprain, and so coach brought us out for one practice, me and a couple of other freshmen, and just tried us out, see if we could snap a ball, and I could snap it fairly well, and even though I never played center. So then that practice, I was taking reps with the second group at center, being my third week into actual football practice in college, which was ridiculous. Yeah, looking back, I was like, that's insane.
That's really fast.
Obviously it helped me get on the field. I ended up playing quite a bit at center that year, and after coming in as a tackle, but it also just helped me being versatile. That transition helped me learn the offense and learn, just football and raise my football IQ so much just to be able to make that move to center. And it caused me to have to learn everything right now because I was the one, as everybody knows, the center kind of gets everybody on the same page. He makes all the calls and, reads the defense and everything like that. So it helped me learn a lot faster. And then, going into my time here at Louisville, that, it never changed. I knew coming in, we had Cole Bentley, who was the starting center when I first got here. He was a really good player in college and a really smart player as well. So I was able to learn quite a bit from him too. But I knew that for me to get on the field when I got here, I was going to have to play different positions, play guard, be ready to jump in at center whenever I needed. And but yeah, I think that's just it's so important. Just like I said, there's injuries, there's guys get banged up, especially late in the season. We're playing a lot of snaps, and I just think that's so useful, and that's what it's just been important to me ever since the beginning.
That year was cool because it was basically like having 2 centers out there on the field. So I mean, it made you feel really confident out there with all the checks and everything. So I mean, I know you guys made us feel good. What was it like? Was it hard making those transitions as a freshman, like having to learn the offense almost on the fly? I mean, because that's really impressive to be getting two. I remember I got tossed into the fire after Stacey Thomas got hurt. There were 2 linebackers that got hurt. Stacey Thomas and Keith Kelsey both got hurt during fall camp, so I got tossed into the fire. Was not fun. I did not have any success at all. Like, how hard was it for you to learn the offense during that time period?
Yeah, it was really difficult. I was meeting with the coach, the O-line coach, a little bit even before that, just to help me learn throughout the summer. But it's as it's completely different once you put the pads on and get out there and looking through a helmet and a face mask. It just is different than just putting on a whiteboard or watching the film. So really getting out there and just struggling and going up there making mistakes. That was just what. Like I said, it helped me learn the best. And even though it was difficult, and that's not what you would like to do, just for your own self and, your own
confidence in your mental
exactly for your
of not getting cussed out by college.
Yeah. But exactly. But it's what happened, and it's what was, made me learn it faster. It made me obviously, and what was really huge at that time was, I had 2 guys at guard, both the guards that were next to me. really for the ones and the twos for any rep that I was taking, they had been there and they were kind of veteran players and had played there for a while, and it was they helped me out as O-linemen do. Where the O-line room is the best in sports, I believe. So those guys were awesome and really helped me, go up there and make the call whenever I was, either couldn't figure it out or couldn't remember or whatever. But even then, I was able to pick it up somewhat fast and be able to make the right call most of the time, I would say.
Have you ever had a chance to like kind of reflect on your football journey? Like you go from that football practice and your coach saying like, "Hey, we need someone center to take some snaps." Like, "Oh yeah, I can snap it very well." From that to now, not only your first team All ACC, but you win the Jacobs blocking trophy, the first Louisville guy since Mekhi Becton, and he's pretty good. I mean, have you ever had a chance to sit like, man, I've really come far?
Um, I I wouldn't say that I don't know if I have really been able to just really sit back and think about it. Obviously, because right after the season, I just jumped right into to that Senior Bowl, and then immediately just started training for the next, and trying to just continue to learn down here. But just thinking about it briefly, and the times that I just kind of reflect a little bit, it is, but again, it's definitely not all, by anything that I've done. I've been really blessed to be around a lot of really good players, a lot of really, really good coaches, and everywhere I've been, and especially here at Louisville, that have a trip that I can, point to say that they really helped me out a lot. You see my improvement, and yeah, it's just from everybody from the strength staff to the trainers to obviously the coaches. They've been tremendous in my development throughout the years, and what helped me get to that point from, stepping in, running the wing T offense in high school and at Scott County, which it was great. I love it, but stepping in and trying and having to, pass protect against, Notre Dame and some of the best pass rushers in the country was difficult. But, like I said, those reps and learning from veteran players when I was young, and stepping in and learn from great coaches throughout my entire time is just what helped me be able to make those leaps and to get where I was, my senior year and where I am right now.
You mentioned the wing T. I remember when Cole Bentley came out of high school, man, he was struggling to learn how to pass block too.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
That's funny that you two, ironically, both came out wing T offense, and both made out to be some pretty damn good ball players in college too. Go ahead, Adam.
And then kind of going back to the relationships you've had with players and coaches along the way, what was the relationship like with Jack Plummer this season? Because obviously you Brom comes in, completely new system, new staff. So, there's a lot of newness involved, but along with that new quarterback, I mean, it's new. He's a new guy that you're snapping for, yes, but it's someone who's got system familiarity. I mean, you hear the term, he's a coach on the field, but I mean, like it was pretty much like that with Plummer. Like, was it easier to kind of adjust to that offense, knowing that, the guy that you're snapping to kind of knew what he was getting into?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, he was huge in not only me, but just everybody being able to learn the offense better. I know the skill positions really benefited from him having that experience and being able to help them a lot. But yeah, for me, when he got to Louisville, it was, I obviously our relationship is one of the more important ones, and just us being able to have a connection on the field is really important just for the offense to run. So him being able to kind of help me and be in the back of my ear, just, if ever I was confused about anything, or, when Coach Baum was, when they first got there, having to learn just the entirety of his offense and be able to, know it like the back of my hand and make all the calls and everything while also reading the defense and adjusting and everything. It was moving fast. And luckily I was pretty experienced at that point and was able to make those adjustments pretty fast. But he really helped a lot. And I'll also mention Eric Miller, who was very familiar with that offense, just like Jack. And so whenever he got to Louisville, and he messed with the group, immediately, just as the rest of the guys did. And he was also big in helping me and the rest of the guys, the other tackles, just be able to understand the offense and what the coaches were wanting to get done.
Yeah, I remember specifically from spring how, Eric came in, like, and he's also got this system experience, and we asked him about him. But then when we asked him about it, he was kind of quick to say, like, yeah, I've got experience, but Hudson, he's like the traffic cop of the offensive line.
Has a look for it at least.
Yeah, right.
Right. Exactly.
Did you have something to do with Jack's mustache? Because you all, in some of your pictures, you rock a stash very well. Like you rock a stash like a dad of 4 kids who's been working on, the Ford factory line for all those years. Did you have something to do with Jack growing that stash out? Like, Jack, you know what? I think you look good with a mustache.
No, I didn't. He did that on his own. I don't know. I think he's done that in the past. Eric was the same way. He rocked a mustache for most of the season too. But no, I didn't play much of a part in that. Obviously, it encouraged him to keep it, and a lot of the guys would try to get me to shave the beard and just go stash just like they were. But I couldn't get myself to do it. I would, like some of the pictures, I would just trim around the mustache and
you've got a wife. You've got a wife to answer to, man. She gets
Exactly.
to say in the facial hair situation just as much as you
Exactly.
get to see. As a married man, I'm putting down. I got you, man.
Right.
Well, I was gonna say though, when it comes to Jack, and when it comes to just the season, like from your perspective, we asked Evan this, but how do you think Jack did, or how do you, from what you saw, Jack managing some of the struggles of this season? And, I know he had that system familiarity, but there was, some times obviously where there were some mistakes that were detrimental, and obviously it wasn't the end all be all in all situations, but he did catch a lot of flack from fan base and from, even in the ACC championship, from a national media perspective. How did you see him kind of manage that? And how did you kind of encourage him to keep his head up through all of that?
Yeah. Well, for one, I just tried to be there for him, always encouraging him because he is a really good player. And obviously he won a lot of games here with us just in one season. So, he did a lot of really, really good things. And he was a great, obviously on the field, but off the field, he was, I would say, even better for the team and for the offense, just, keeping everybody together and making sure we stay level headed, not too high, not too low. So I'll say he was definitely great off the field. But yeah, I was just trying to always be there for him and always be encouraging and upbeat and very positive and optimistic at practice. I am always in general with everybody, but especially with him and the quarterback. But to be honest, I don't know if he was just that way himself. I wouldn't say that if somebody didn't see any of the criticism on social media or from any news outlet or anything, and didn't know that was happening, they would have no idea anything was wrong with Jack. He always kept the same kind of temperament. He never visibly got down on himself at all. I would say, obviously, he was hard on himself during practice and during games, especially just speaking to him personally. But I think that's just the perfectionism aspect of it, and just him wanting to be great, obviously. But yeah, I mean, he was very much seemed to handle it very well, to himself, and obviously, I'm sure it took a toll on him, inside. But I think he did a really good job. Obviously, nobody's perfect, and none of us were able to make all the right plays or all the right blocks or whatever the case may be. But I do commend him for what he was able to do for the program, and like I said, just as a team and as a team as a whole, just being that leader for all of us, even though it was first year and having to do all that at the very beginning, he immediately stepped in and took on that role. And yeah, I think overall he did a really good job.
So this poster of the ACC championship trophy has been outside of our locker room since we remodeled it, right? What was it like to finally, make it to that game, get to participate in that game? I know it didn't go our way, but to finally be like, all right, this is the work that we put into the offseason and everything, it paid off for us to get to this moment right here.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And it was, like you said, it's always the first goal that we put up for ourselves. It's always, at the very beginning when we first report there in January, it's always, the standard that we set for ourselves. We're always wanting to work to and do whatever it takes to make it to that game, and not only make it but to win that game. And like you said, we unfortunately came up short, didn't go our way, but yeah, it was unbelievable. Yeah, I just remember that whole week, that every day in practice, it was just awesome. And I remember talking to Michael Gonzalez, and it was really after the Miami game, but because that's when we knew that we made it into the AC Championship game. There's actually a pretty cool picture of us right on the field after the game. Everybody's celebrating, and me and him are just sitting there, standing in the middle of the field talking. It was a pretty cool picture. I haven't sent it to you, but I remember just talking to him, like, because he's been at Louisville. Both of us came on the same day. I'm butchering my words, but both of us came on the first day in 2021 January, and it was just kind of a moment to look back, and we were like, all this work we put in through these 3 years, and all the hard losses and the close wins, close losses, whatever, it finally paid off. And even just looking back through this year, it was just so much hard work, and so much. It was just so cool to see that finally come to fruition, and to be able to play in that game. So yeah, it was awesome. It was an unbelievable experience.
That picture, I feel like I've seen that before, but it kind of reminds me of Simba and his dad. All this is yours now. This is it.
Yeah, it could be. I was talking to Mike on the phone last night, and that's kind of what it was. Yeah, that's funny.
So tell me a little bit, let me back up here. It's rare to see in college sports these days, dual sport athletes, just because of the crossover in schedules. I mean, football is a year-round commitment. We've seen it over the years with, some athletes that play football and basketball. We've seen, basketball or baseball, football players. There's been some combinations, but never have we seen, at least that I can remember, Matt, Vince, you all may know otherwise, but never have we seen a Louisville football / track and field athlete. So I'm curious, like, just what is it like for you on a year-round basis, just schedule-wise, right? Like football into track and field. And what are the training differences? Like, what do obviously I know for football, you're doing all kinds of drills and you're lifting, but like, what is the training regiment like for throwing the shot put, right? Isn't that what it's called? I'm not a track and field guy. I apologize. I should know. But it's shot put, right?
Yeah, shot put and discus are the two that I did.
Discus. Okay.
Yeah,
Discus. Yes.
put,
Okay. So tell me a little bit about your schedule and the training differences between the two sports.
Yeah. So, I'll start with just the type of training that we do for both. As far as O-line and throwers, I would say they're pretty similar, as far as just the type of athlete, but also just the training that we do. You got to be really explosive. You got to be really powerful. You got to be really athletic to be successful in both of those. So from that aspect, it was pretty similar, and there are a lot of correlations between the two. But as far as schedule wise and just the training load, I would say was the hardest obstacle, just because, say, like, for example, we go through the football season, and from the end of the previous track season, which is usually around June, late May to June, to the next January, I didn't put on throwing shoes. I didn't touch a shot put or discus at all. I didn't go over the track even. I was just, obviously that's football season, but I didn't double up in that season. I just kind of left it and just focused on football. And I really didn't miss any football even throughout the spring. But once football season ends in January, I didn't ever, obviously depend on a bowl game when that was, but I think one time after the season ended was I able to go home just because of our bowl game, and I think that was last season, 22 season, when we had a really early bowl game. But I would stay at campus and just start track practice immediately, usually January 2nd, and so I would just go with practice, go start practicing with the team. Usually I would practice with them, throwing about 2 hours a day, just once a day for that first part. When football starts and we go coming for winter workouts, I would obviously report and do everything that football had going on, all the workouts and meetings, and then obviously had class. So during that winter, early springtime, my schedule would be roughly we would lift in the morning with football. Usually, I think my group is at 7:30, so we would lift, have breakfast, and then I would have class from 10 to 12 usually, and 12:30 I would just go right over to the track, and I would practice from usually 12:30 to 2:15, 2:30ish, and then before spring ball, that would be the end of my day. But once spring ball started, it would be that exact same day, except right after track practice, I would usually I wasn't able to drive because it was just so quick of transition. So I would just take a scooter on campus down to the stadium immediately after and just go right into meetings and then change and go have spring practice. So it was a lot of three a day, so to speak, 3 practices a day. And that was kind of my schedule. And so obviously throughout the regular season of track, I wasn't, throwing a whole lot of PRs per se, just because I was, usually coming off of a full week
tired.
Well, yeah, when you're doing 3 a days,
Yeah,
I would think so.
Yeah.
But knowing Bryan Hudson, you never complained about it. Not once was it an excuse, right? No, tired
Right.
is for wussies. You can sleep when you're
I would
dead.
complain whenever I didn't know he was at dinner, and I'd be like, "Mike, where's Brian at?" And I'd have to call him, and because nobody had told me Brian had track, and I'd be like, "Well, I guess Bryan Hudson's not here," but that never happens.
Right. But he's like, damn it, Vince, I'm at practice, man.
Yeah,
Leave me
right.
alone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You ever get
so,
tired? Like, you ever just say, like, I want a nap?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I would definitely want that a lot. But yeah, I was just kind of grinding through, and it so yeah, like I would obviously, like I mentioned, through those meets, kind of the regular season meets throughout the first part of the season in track. Well, especially there's really 2 seasons because you have indoor and outdoor season. So all of indoor season and the first part of outdoor was during spring ball usually. So I was having to battle through that and trying to put up good numbers and just kind of get back in the swing of things with track really, because like I mentioned, every other thrower that I'm going up against in the country has been throwing and doing that thing year round. So I just picked it up in January and started doing it back again. So I was every year I started behind the 8 ball, like I'd said, and I just had to work my way through and just kind of grind through that time. I would throw on Saturdays after doing, a full 5-day lift week with off-season football workouts, and throwing. So those meets, I just had to, grind through and, just do my best. And then
if y'all understood the Friday leg day workout that Brian that would have to be done, and then he would have to go throw on Saturdays, that's
Man, I've been complaining about a tummy ache all day. Like, I feel like a wuss right now, man.
These are workout Fridays that are designed for you not to walk upstairs on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah,
Like,
they say you got 2 days to recover, so you just give it, they can just kill your legs, everything. So
yeah, Brian's just 30 minutes.
And the most impressive thing is, and he's being humble about it, he's talking about how tired he is and how he's fighting through and making it sound like he's not putting up impressive numbers. At least looking on 2023, you scored points in every indoor meet and ended up coming in 5th in conference championships. Let's not act like you're struggling out there. You're still doing really well.
And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you go to NCAAs?
I did. So yeah, that's what I was another thing I was going to mention. So throughout that whole season, like with football, usually, as y'all probably know, we get the month of May usually off. That's usually the time where they give us the whole month, and there's nothing requirement football. Pretty much everybody, all the guys go home to go on vacation or go home or whatever. And so it lines up perfectly that May is when usually the second weekend or so, give or take, of May is when the conference championships are, and then 2 weeks after that is when the first round of the regional, the preliminary finals for NCAA championships is at the end of May. And so I did, have a month there where I wasn't doing anything football and I was just a track athlete. I would, right after the exit meeting for football, when we had that team meeting, I would go right over to the track and start and practice for that day and then just be a track athlete for that month. And so I was lifting with the track team, practicing and doing the whole deal. So I did get a little bit of a.
Do you hold all the PR records weightlifting wise for the track team?
Well, I don't, but it's because during that time, that's like the taper. You know what I mean? So,
oh yes, I got you.
They were like loading down, deloading. So,
You should have swung that and been like, guys, you got to let me just test once, just so I could throw up some numbers that'll be here for.
Right. Yeah. I should have done that, but no, those guys are we had some really good ones. We had a discus thrower that was really good from Israel, and a lot of really good throwers. But yeah, so that was really good for me every year. And especially this past year, I got that month to really have like a couple weeks of a taper. Even though again, pretty much everybody else is on a whole plan to where they peak from January up until they peak on the right time, right when championship season starts. And I was, even though I didn't get all that time, I was still fortunate enough to be able to get those couple weeks to where I could do whatever my body needed to do to just rest, get fresh, and then just get a quick little, peak, so to speak, to get my body primed to go throw. So, like this year, for example, for outdoor season, I had a decent outdoor meet. I think I got fifth outdoors, maybe again, maybe fourth, but I think fifth this season. And then discus, I got sixth in the ACCs, which again, neither of those were PRs or what I was really capable of, but it was a good meet. So we go on to regionals, and at that point, that was 3 or 4 weeks of me just being with track and not having to do any football workouts or anything. So I was feeling really good. Was able to hit a big PR in the shot put at the regional meet, which was in Jacksonville this past season. And so I threw like 1904, which was like 63 and some inches or something like that, 63 feet and some.
Don't act like you don't know. You got the 1904 exactly on the head.
Yeah. I don't know the feet exactly, just because they don't, like, everything with track in college is just meters. So everybody, you say 1904, everybody knows exactly, you know what I mean? So I'm just so used to that at this point. But yeah, throw 1904, which placed me 8th at the regional meet, which is the whole east half of the United States. So that was big. That was really, really big accomplishment for me. It was my first time since really high school that I'd felt like I, had put together a really good throw and a really good meet. Just because I was really successful in high school, and then had knee surgery in my senior year, which set me off, a little bit off track. And right after that surgery, I had to go right into football. So it took me a long time, I feel like, to get back into the swing of things with track. But had a really good throw then, placed 8th, which top 12 go on to nationals. So I made it to the national meet, which was huge. And then 2 weeks later, flew out to Austin, Texas, because the national championship was down at University of Texas. So I went out there and to compete. And again, didn't throw what I wanted to, but I felt like I was in a good spot technically, and I was still able to come away with honorable mention All-American. So it ended up being a pretty good season.
That's a hell of a freaking year, man. That's a hell of a year. But you're a man of many talents, Bryan, is what we came to find out this year. So the glow game comes around, right? And I'm not gonna lie, I was not loving the glow game. I was like, this is stupid. We play under lights. I did the neon cleats when I played, the glow in the dark cleats when I played. I wasn't a fan. But then I saw you and John L in a diner and doing one of the best acting gigs I've seen out of a player. So was there an audition for that? How did you get this going? What was it like being around a legend like John L? Like, what was that like? Break that experience down.
Yeah, it was awesome. You know, I found out a couple weeks before. I had no idea what it was going to be like. He gave me kind of the rundown of, you know, kind of the idea that he had in his mind, but I really didn't know much about it until I got there that night. But we filmed it, I think, like maybe 2 weeks or so before. We filmed it on a bye week, actually. So I think that was 2 or 3 weeks before the actual game. But yeah, he tells me what to wear, so I throw that on, I show up, and then I see like this is actually going to be like a whole production type thing, and so I'm like, okay. And that's not, you kind of know me. I'm not really
No, that's not your thing, man.
about all that stuff. So I'm excited about it, and being picked to do something like that was pretty cool. Especially, I didn't know until we got there that that the coach was going to be there
John
with
L.
us in the video. Yeah, John L. So I didn't know that until they talked to me about it and said that he was on his way. So that was a really cool experience. I got to have a conversation with him, and we were just talking a little bit of ball and about the season so far. And yeah, it was just a really cool experience. And
wasn't your wife in it as well?
yeah,
So
she
was
made
that a
an
surprise
appearance.
to you, or did you know that also?
No, yes. Well, they had said that they had told me that she can come and just be around, and even they said they may find a way for her to be in it as well. So I told her, and she originally wasn't going to be able to, but just a couple hours before, she something changed in her schedule, so she was able to make it. And but yeah, she showed up, and that was really really awesome, and pretty special for her to be a part of that too. She was sitting in the booth behind me in the beginning of the video. So
Yeah, what it's a family of many talents, man. It's incredible. All right, well, let's do this. We're going to transition to the last part of the show here, and we're going to just get to know you a little bit better, okay? We love offensive linemen on this show. It's part of our brand. The guys who just do the dirty work and, show up with their lunch pail, and you don't get to see much of the personality because they're not
we made Isaac
celebrating.
Martin shirts, Brad.
Right. See, that's what we're about here. So we're going to put Keith, you're going to be in charge of this. All right. 90 seconds on the clock, Bryan. So you got to go fast here. There's no time to think. Okay. And they're not easy questions, but they're nothing like that's going to really I'm not going to be like, what's the biggest problem in the world today? Like, we're not doing that.
I can ask you if the earth is flat. We won't.
Yeah. Right. So, all right, Keith, let's go ahead. 90 seconds on the clock. I will start here, guys, and we'll just alternate. Matt, me, you, and Vince. We'll alternate through these. We just got a couple of them. So let's start here. I'll go first. Run or pass? If you get to choose, run or pass.
run.
Go to candy.
Snickers.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes.
Oh, I love that answer. Is it Coke, pop, or soda? What do you call it?
Soda.
Soda. Okay.
Drums or
I'm a-
flats?
Ooh, I'll go drums. Yeah. I think drums.
Good man.
Okay. All right. And you got to clear those to the bone, right? Like, we're not leaving any meat on those things, right?
Oh no, definitely
Okay.
not.
Okay.
Pancakes or waffles?
Pancakes.
Guilty pleasure.
Hmm.
Tick, 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 tick.
I'll go biscuits and gravy. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting. We're going food there. Okay. All right. Beer or bourbon?
That's a tough one. I actually don't drink, so I can't.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
Keith.
fair.
Stop the clock. Last one here. Okay. I'll ask the last one. Okay. All right. I had a good question. I just lost it. So give me a second to bring it back here. Man, that one really slipped me. I had a fantastic question. And I just lost it. So I'll ask this: better thrower, you or Haley? That's the question here.
That's a great question. She, I'm gonna give it to her because
It's a humble man.
one, she was an All-American in her own right too in the weight throw, and she had a really good career. she was able. I hope this is not a part of the 90 seconds. I'm sure that's already gone. But,
Yeah, we took the clock off. We turned it off. It's okay.
You're the center. You're
Okay, good.
supposed to know
You're
when the
good.
clock's ticking, Brian.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Yeah, the shot clock. I need to see the visual here, but I'll just elaborate on that. Yeah, I'm going to give it to her because she was really what kind of started me into throwing. First of all, she started throwing a couple years before I did, and my first meet was one that she was throwing at in the summer. It was like part of the AAU circuit, so I started throwing kind of because of her. She played a part and kind of giving me that motivation, inspiring me. She taught me quite a bit just from what she knew, even at that young age in high school. So she kind of taught me in that early age and gave me a lot of pointers and pointed me in the right direction. And like I said, and again, like what I said a few minutes ago, she was a really good thrower in college. She came in as a javelin thrower, which I know y'all aren't familiar with a whole lot with the throwers, but you all know what like javelin is, right?
Yeah.
The stick.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
The big, yeah.
The stick, man.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
big
right.
stick, yeah.
We'll just keep it simple here, man.
But she came in as a javelin thrower in college at Louisville, and she ended up doing something. I forget, maybe it was in her second year or beginning of third year, but she did something to her UCL in her arm. Same thing, her like the Tommy John surgery.
Oh, man.
UCL.
Yeah.
How did that feel?
It's the same motion as the baseball, as the pitchers and everything. So it was similar injury, and so she could either have surgery and maybe be able to compete again in that, but it could obviously cause some later damages and complications later. But she decided to just kind of play a little bit safer when it came to that, and she transitioned to the weight and the hammer throw, which is completely different, throwing event, obviously, but just different type of athlete that has to do that, and just whole different world. So she transitioned to there and competed in the weight throw and the hammer for 2 years, I think. And her last year, she ended up making it to the regional meet, and in the weight throw, she made it to nationals indoor and was an honorable mention All-American. So, so I'll give that to her. She was a good thrower.
Hudson family is one of many talents. It's incredible. Incredible. Well, Bryan, thank you, sir, for your time. I know we've got a lot going on here. Thursday, April 25th through Saturday, April 27th, NFL draft. Before then, Bryan will participate in Pro Day, which Vince and Matt will both be out there for that. So best of luck to you there, man. Hopefully got that 40 time down, ready to do the I don't know what else, offensive linemen, what other drills that are out there, but bench press. Yes. Have you been practicing the bench press?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
what's our high rep
drills
right now? Do you feel comfortable sharing that?
Well, I feel comfortable sharing anything, but I don't know. I'll shoot for high 20s. I'll say I'll go for high 20s.
Okay.
So,
at what weight? What do they do? What's the weight on that?
225.
225.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic,
But
man.
I'll say my strong suit is probably the short shuttle, the yellow drill. Those things are where I kind of excel at. So
They don't have you all snapping into like a trash can or trying to hit moving targets or something. Like there's not a little bit more skill.
They should. I agree with that.
Come on, man. That's where the entertainment is at. Imagine these big offensive linemen just snapping the ball to a moving target. Like, come on, we're missing out on it here.
Design all the skills competitions for Pro Bowl.
That's right, man.
Give it a little
Brian, thank you so much, bro, for
man.
everything you did these past however many years you were here, and man, it's been a pleasure to cover you. Pleasure to be around you as the coach, student assistant role. I mean, thank you for joining us tonight, Jacob. I don't know.
That's it, man. Best of luck to you, brother, and enjoy some wings and some. I know you don't drink some non-alcoholic beer on us, man. And we'll catch up with you soon, brother.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Appreciate this time, and appreciate for you all for all you do, during the season and I mean year round. It's awesome, and I love watching you guys. So I really appreciate it.
I don't. No more left to be said, man. That's it.